Would it be possible if we had this to clone Jesus?
Yes, theoretically, it's definitely possible.
Some doubt their authenticity, but these limbs and organs are worshipped by devout followers. The sight of these grotesque relics would make most recoil in horror. Ancient, decaying remains, twisted beyond recognition. These are the 12 horrifying and grotesque relics that actually exist. Number 12. Divine foreskin. Relics tied to Jesus of Nazareth have, for centuries, fascinated both believers and skeptics. From the Holy Grail to the nails that pierced Christ's hands, these artifacts are cornerstones of Christian mysticism. One of the most unusual relics is a fragment of Jesus' foreskin. It's said to be left behind after his ascension to heaven. The story of the divine foreskin is so strange that it almost feels like a work of fiction. Yet, in the 16th century, many devout Christians believed in its existence. Legend says, in 1557, they found the foreskin of Jesus in a small village. Shortly after its discovery, reports of strange and mystical occurrences began to circulate. Unexplained fogs, sudden violent storms, and bizarre weather patterns plagued the area. However, the relic wasn't just a source of chaos. It was also said to possess miraculous healing powers. One of the most stunning claims about the foreskin was that it could restore sight to the blind. Believers say that if people wiped the fragment on their eyes, it would heal their blindness. They would regain their vision, as if touched by a heavenly power. This relic was soon seen as a source of great power. It could heal and transform lives with a simple touch. However, the integrity of these stories is seriously questioned. The artifact was discovered nearly 1,500 years after Jesus died and ascended. The Bible and early Christian texts do not record any writings that indicate Jesus intended to leave behind such a personal object. In fact, it's unclear how this foreskin could be certified as belonging to Christ at all. Could it have been an elaborate hoax? Many researchers and historians believe this. Many dismiss the relic as a myth. It appeared out of nowhere and had unexplained powers. Despite the obsession with the holy foreskin, it's possible the villagers were rubbing an average bit of flesh on their eyes, mistaking it for something special. Nonetheless, the legend remains. Some believers, despite modern criticism, think a strange relic belonged to Jesus Christ. But if that's true, why is it so obscure? Why haven't this artifact's remarkable healing properties become more widely known? Most people have probably never heard of this relic. It is said to cure the blind and heal the sick. If such powers existed, they would undoubtedly have influenced the course of history. Number 11. The heart of Camillus de Lellis. Camillus de Lellis, like many saints, did not start out with the intention of becoming a saint. Camillus, from a military family, chose a life of fight and discipline after his father's example. But a strong desire to gamble set him apart. It would lead to a destructive habit. His addiction left him poor and broken. It was a stark contrast to the devoted life he would later pursue. Camillus's demise came quickly. His gambling had spun out of hand. He was forced to confront the devastation of his life. At his lowest point, with his life in disarray, he met a Capuchin monk who would permanently alter his fate. This chat sparked something in Camillus. It inspired him to quit his wild ways and turn to God. His change, however, was not easy. The road to redemption was full of obstacles. Chief among them was a recurring wound on his ankle. It reminded him of his physical fragility. Despite his new faith, his unhealed pain got him expelled from a monastic order. Camillus, however, interpreted this as a sign from God rather than a setback. Knowing his true purpose, he dedicated himself to helping the sick and suffering, especially the severely crippled. He worked tirelessly as a nurse, spending days and nights beside the bedsides of those in need. Camillus discovered his mission in aiding the most disadvantaged and disenfranchised people. His dedication did not end there. Camillus became a priest. Later, he founded a religious order, the Order of the Ministers of the Sick. This order, still functioning today, cares for the sick and suffering. It upholds Camillus's spirit of compassion and service. His rise from a gambling addict to a paramedic saint shows the power of faith and perseverance. After his death, people treasured Camillus' legacy. Camillus de Lellis's physical heart was considered a revered relic. His followers removed his heart and displayed it in many places. It symbolized the love and compassion he had shown to the afflicted. Number 10. Hand of Stephen. Stephen I, Hungary's first king, is honored as the country's founding father. He helped convert Hungary's pagan tribes to Christianity. He converted a mostly pagan society to Christianity. That is his most lasting legacy. His impact is still felt today. For these reasons, Stephen is unique in Hungary's history. He is both a national saint and a political figure. Stephen's significance increased after his death. He was buried beneath what is now St. Stephen's Basilica in Budapest. Over the years, his grave became a site of devotion and pilgrimage. But the narrative of Stephen's influence didn't end with his grave. An incident during his canonization eternally linked his name to Hungarian religious history. His mummified body had a right hand, and he was believed to have supernatural powers. It was torn from the body. This relic, called the Holy Right, is a symbol of the country's spiritual past. The king's hand was chopped not as a dishonor, but rather to protect and honor his sanctity. The hand was artfully decorated and presented with great care. It became a very valuable relic. It was believed to embody Stephen's strength and protect Hungary. However, the Holy Right's march through the centuries was far from simple. Wars and invasions forced frequent relocations of the artifact for safety. The hand's ownership changed several times. It was hidden in various places in Europe, especially during Hungary's many conflicts. Each time it reappeared, the hand confirmed its worth. It was a religious artifact and a national symbol of strength and faith. By the end of World War II in 1945, the Holy Right had been restored to its original place in St. Stephen's Basilica in Budapest, where it remains today. The relic is a symbol of religious devotion in Hungary. It has been in annual processions in the capital for decades. These processions, which draw thousands of believers, demonstrate the nation's ongoing devotion to its founder and Christian past. The Holy Right reminds us of Stephen's role in shaping Hungary. It symbolizes the country's spiritual and historical growth. Number 9. Blood of St. Januarius. St. Januarius, also known as San Gennaro, is the venerated patron saint of Naples, Italy. His reputation is tied to a dramatic ceremony in the city's main cathedral, the Duomo di Napoli. Since the 14th century, an ampule with St. Januarius's dried blood has been kept here. This relic is famous for a miracle. Its blood is said to liquefy 3 times a year. On September 19th, St. Januarius's feast day. On December 16th, the Archbishop of Naples' anniversary. And on the day his relics are reunited. The liquefaction of St. Januarius's blood is a divine miracle. Thousands of faithful believers have witnessed it over the years. However, the phenomenon is not without its bad side. In history, there have been key cases when blood failed to liquefy. They are often linked to major global or religious changes. These incidents have been viewed as foreboding signs, adding to the miracle's already mysterious reputation. One such frightening situation occurred on 16th December 2016. The promised miracle did not occur that day at a solemn liturgy in the San Gennaro chapel. The blood stayed solid. Many spectators saw this as a foreboding omen. This incident was similar to other incidents in which liquefaction failed to occur. For example, in September 1939, just weeks after World War II began, the blood did not liquefy. Similar failures were reported in September 1940, as Italy faced the horrors of war, in September 1943, in September 1944-73, before a cholera outbreak in Naples, and again in September 1980, a month before a terrible earthquake in Irpinia that killed over 3,000 people. Number 8. The head and thumb of St. Catherine of Siena. Catherine of Siena, born in 1347, was a mystic. She is a key figure in Catholic history. A consecrated virgin, she later became a doctor of the Church. Her life was marked by deep spirituality, mysticism, and strong faith. She was canonized in 1461. She is one of Italy's patron saints. Her work has long affected the Church. Catherine had an incredible spiritual connection with God when she was a child. Despite her family's wishes, she chose a life of celibacy. She also devoted herself to her Christian faith. This decision led her to join the Dominican Third Order as a laywoman. She aimed to help the sick and poor, especially during plague outbreaks and unrest in Italy. Her deep relationship with God set her apart. Everyone in the Church knew of her visions and mystic experiences. Catherine's most notable achievement was convincing Pope Gregory to return the papacy from Avignon to Rome in 1376. This move was essential in maintaining the Church's unity during a time of deep division. Catherine flew to Avignon. She used her great power to persuade the Pope to restore the papacy's proper position. This had major political and religious effects. She then worked hard to prevent the Western Schism. It threatened the Church's stability. Her strong spirituality and diplomacy made her a great advocate for Church unity. Catherine's bond with God was so deep, she claimed to have a mystical marriage with Jesus Christ. According to her, Christ appeared to her in a vision, placing a ring on her finger and claiming her as his bride. This symbolic marriage bolstered her determination and commitment to her purpose. The ring was unseen by others, but it reminded Catherine of her devotion to Christ. Catherine's life was also filled with bodily and spiritual pain. She fasted rigorously and often went days without food, relying on the Eucharist. She hoped to identify more with Christ's suffering, so she acted penitent. She suffered the stigmata, or Christ's wounds, which were not apparent until her death. Her strong mystical experiences and ascetic practices made her a revered figure for decades, not just during her lifetime. Catherine of Siena's relics are now honored in a variety of churches. Her bronze-framed skull is on exhibit at Santo Domenico in Siena. Other parts of her bones, including her thumb, are also kept there. The rest of her relics are housed at Santa Maria sopra Minerva in Rome. These relics show her lasting impact on the Church and sainthood. They attract pilgrims and travelers from around the world. Number 7. Buddha's tooth. In Buddhism, those who attain enlightenment are called Buddhas. They achieve this through a deep spiritual knowledge called Bodhi. Siddhartha Gautama, who died in 483 BC, founded this religion. He is the first Buddha. His teachings have greatly affected history. Ancient traditions say some of his physical remains, especially his teeth, have piqued people's interest. Buddha's teeth myth began when monks claimed to have found them after his death. Once in the hands of devoted people, these teeth were thought to have mystical powers. As the myth spread, Buddhist monasteries claimed to hold a holy tooth. Each relic was thought to have immense power. Temples worldwide still claim to have the historical Buddha's teeth. A Buddhist temple in Los Angeles makes a strange claim. It is, however, interesting. According to devotees, this temple has Buddha's molar, which has supernatural abilities. The tooth is more than just a relic. It is supposed to grow indefinitely, defying natural laws. On rare occasions, it has been reported to glow brightly. Despite these incredible claims, there is no scientific proof to corroborate such events. However, for the believers, the lack of evidence does little to weaken the tale. The idea of preserving ancient teeth may appear strange to modern sensibilities. After all, why would someone treasure and love something as little as a tooth for centuries? However, understanding the historical background is vital. In Buddha's day, people were very superstitious. Science was not as advanced as it is now. Many sought answers to life's puzzles in the mystical. They often trusted artifacts that seemed to connect the natural and supernatural worlds. Superstitions were not just fringe beliefs. They were universally recognized as true. People then believed, as real as the daily sunrise, that Buddha's teeth had supernatural powers. These relics symbolized more than just remains. They embodied Buddha's infinite wisdom and power. Number 6. Hyacinth of Caesarea. On the outskirts of Fürstenfeldbruck, Bavaria, the Church of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary holds a very strange, unsettling relic. Most churches show only bits or isolated body parts of great saints. This church, however, holds a fully adorned corpse. For decades, pilgrims and visitors have viewed the body of a child known as Hyacinth of Caesarea. Hyacinth was an early Christian martyr who died tragically in 108 AD. His refusal to abandon his Christian faith led to his arrest by Roman officials. According to Christian belief, Hyacinth was exposed to excruciating pain and famine. His captors offered the boy food, but it was impure to him. It had been sacrificed to pagan gods. Hyacinth refused to eat because he was deeply committed to his faith, even if it meant death. His martyrdom, like many in early Christianity, symbolized unwavering faith. Folklore says that, as Hyacinth lay dying in his cell, an angel appeared to soothe him. This celestial figure was said to have crowned him. It represented his victory over earthly hardship and a spiritual triumph. This sad imagery confirmed Hyacinth as an early Christian martyr. His story has remained relevant to believers for decades. This relic stands out for two reasons. First is the story of Hyacinth's sacrifice. Second, how his remains are displayed. Unlike other saints' relics, such as a finger or tooth, Hyacinth's entire body has been preserved and enshrined. His corpse is ornately dressed. It is in a glass display, surrounded by lavish ornaments that reflect his hallowed status. The church displays his body, revered like a royal. Visitors are startled by the odd yet compelling sight of the child martyr. Many visitors to the church regard the relic as a symbol of faith and endurance. The body serves as a daily reminder of how far early Christians were willing to go to defend their beliefs. Number 5. Head of Oliver Plunkett. Oliver Plunkett, an Irish Catholic archbishop, met a tragic end. He was the last victim of the infamous Popish plot. This scandalous conspiracy falsely accused him of treason against Protestant King Charles II. In 1681, Plunkett was executed in a horrible manner. He was hung, drawn, and quartered. This was a stern reminder to those who challenged Protestant authority. His martyrdom was a turning point in Irish history. It marked the end of a dreadful era of religious persecution. Following his execution, the fate of Plunkett's remains changed dramatically. His decapitated head was supposedly brought to Rome and hidden for a long time. The relic's voyage was not easy. It was supposedly burned by accident in a fire at a nunnery in Drogheda, Ireland, run by Plunkett's grandniece. Plunkett's close companions saved the head from the flames. It showed their unshakable loyalty. The fire left a scorch mark on the saint's left cheek. It was a heartbreaking reminder of his struggles. St. Peter's Church in Drogheda, Ireland, houses the head and some of Plunkett's bones. Since 1995, this church has been the national shrine to Oliver Plunkett. It is a site of pilgrimage and reverence for the faithful. The relic is beside an official document. It was signed soon after the saint's martyrdom. This document provides a historical record of Plunkett's pain and sanctity. Oliver Plunkett's relic tells a tale of faith and a fight to preserve a martyr's legacy. Despite the chaos and the damage to his skull, his relic is still worshipped. This shows the lasting impact of his sacrifice and his great legacy. Number 4. The Milk of the Virgin Mary. The Chapel of the Milk Grotto in Bethlehem's Old Town is a famous, unique chapel in all of Christianity. This historic spot is tied to a spiritual tradition. It is about the Holy Family fleeing King Herod's massacre of all male newborns in Bethlehem. The account says Jesus, Mary, and Joseph escaped to a small grotto near the city. In this primitive grotto, Mary nursed the infant Jesus. A miracle occurred that would be celebrated for decades. Mythology says that while breastfeeding her son in a grotto, a few drops of milk fell to the ground. These drips, when they touched the floor, are said to have turned the cave's interior bright white. People saw the stones change as a sign from heaven. Over time, the spot became associated with sacred powers. The grotto's whiteness symbolizes purity and a mother's love for her infant. As the mythology grew, so did faith in the grotto's supernatural powers. People began to see the place as a cure, especially for infertility. Couples from all over the Christian world, especially the infertile, traveled to the Milk Grotto to pray for children. Many of these couples returned with stories of answered prayers. They said the chapel had given them the gift of fertility. The grotto's miracle reputation made it a top religious site. Visitors returned each year seeking divine help. Besides its fame as a healing center, another tradition emerged over time. White stone from the grotto's floor was ground into a fine powder. It was then sent around the Christian world. Pilgrims, eager for a piece of the sacred site, would take this powdered stone to their homes and places of worship. People believed that, if held with faith, the powder could grant families fertility and protection. Demand for this powder grew. It became a prized relic in the Christian community, boosting the grotto's allure. Today, the Chapel of the Milk Grotto is still a place of pilgrimage, meditation, and reflection. The site's calmness and rich spiritual history attract those seeking solace and miracles. The grotto's white interior reminds us of the faith that connects millions of Christians to the Holy Family story. Though small, the chapel is very important. People from many countries come to enjoy its peace and divine atmosphere. Number 3. St. Clare's fingernails and hair clippings. St. Clare of Assisi, a contemporary of St. Francis, is known for her devotion and the relics of her life. Clare, known for her beautiful, flowing hair, had a life of deep piety and simplicity. Her wish to abandon vanity was symbolized by cutting off her lovely hair. It was a huge act of commitment. It aimed to discard her vanity and embrace a life dedicated to God. An unknown follower collected Clare's shorn locks after her spectacular metamorphosis. These strands of hair are now kept in a reliquary in the Basilica of St. Clare in Assisi. This gesture shows her followers' deep appreciation for her humble spiritual life. The Basilica of St. Clare, or the Church of St. Clare's, is a key pilgrimage site. It houses not just her hair relics, but also other saint-related precious objects. It includes a rock crystal flask reliquary. It contains some of St. Clare's fingernail clippings. This rare but valued relic links us to the saint's life. St. Clare's relics are more than historical items. They show her unshakable faith and desire for deep humility. These antiques are preserved. They are a tribute to her impact and the respect she earned from her peers and future generations. Her hair, nails, and artifacts show the sacrifices that shaped her life. Number 2. Tongue of St. Anthony. St. Anthony of Padua died on 13th June, 1231. His legacy quickly became famous. Only months after his death, the Pope canonized the renowned Portuguese priest. He did this in response to the people's genuine demands. The reason for such haste was simple. Anthony was known for performing great miracles. His remarks had a power beyond the ordinary. One incident shows the saint's great influence. According to legend, St. Anthony once found himself preaching to a town's residents. Despite his wisdom and enthusiasm, people ignored his message. Unshaken by their apathy, the saint proceeded to the seaside and began speaking to the waters. Miraculously, the fish flocked in droves. They listened to his message as if they understood it. This anecdote highlights that, for Catholics, Anthony's speech is divine. They see it as a sign of his holy tongue. However, in the Catholic faith, the concept of a divine language is more than a metaphor. The Basilica of St. Anthony in Padua, Italy, holds a curious relic of St. Anthony. In the vast basilica, the saint's tongue is well preserved after 800 years. Along with it, his lower jaw is exhibited, both with reverence. This relic came from an event 30 years after the saint's death. When his tomb was opened to investigate the bones, observers were shocked. His body had turned to dust, but his tongue was intact, clean, and unchanged by time. Number 1. The corpse of Saint Bernadette. Saint Bernadette Soubirous, the Lourdes visionary, fascinates both believers and historians. They are intrigued by her life and afterlife. She was born in 1844 in Lourdes, France. She is best known for her spiritual experiences of the Virgin Mary, which she had as a child. These visions inspired the Lourdes Shrine, known for its miracles. Bernadette died in 1879. Her preserved body has drawn interest and debate. The preservation of Saint Bernadette's body is both fascinating and perplexing. her remains were excavated and exhumed. These procedures, part of the canonization investigation, sought to analyze her remains and collect relics. Each test revealed surprising facts about her health. It fueled the debate on incorruptibility. The first exhumation was a momentous occasion. The authorities opened the coffin. Her body was in amazing condition. Witnesses noticed no foul odor. This was key. It showed her bones were exceptionally preserved. The body, in her monastic garb, showed a strange preservation. It defied decomposition. The face was described as dull white, with the skin closely sticking to the muscles and bones. Her eyelids were closed. Her wrists and nails were intact. She held a rusty but firm rosary. Later studies found changes, but they still praised the miracle of her preservation. By 1919, the skin had browned. There were also traces of mildew. However, the underlying organs, particularly the liver, demonstrated an unexpected level of preservation. A final 1925 investigation, before her reburial in a new glass coffin in Nevers's Chapel of St. Bernadette, revealed more details. Despite significant discoloration and shrinkage, her skeleton, muscles, and skin remained intact. Wax molds covered the face and hands, but the tissues and organs were in superb condition. We hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more.